Brazil was the warning. England could be the next victim. Because Brazil did not lose to random chaos. They lost to one repeatable mechanism, one fear, one long ball, one open lane, one Haaland run. And now England are walking toward the same danger. This is not just England versus Norway. This is not a normal quarterfinal preview. This is the question nobody around England wants to ask too loudly. What if Brazil did not get shocked? What if Brazil got solved? Because Norway did not just beat Brazil. They changed Brazil. That is the part England should fear. Brazil are supposed to be the team that wants the ball. The team that believes control belongs to them. The team that makes opponents defend deeper, panic earlier, and chase shadows. But against Norway, something strange happened. Brazil did not look like Brazil. They dropped. They waited. They protected the space behind them as if the entire match was being played with one thought in their head. Do not let Haaland run. That fear changed everything. Brazil finished with only 34% of the ball, one of the lowest possession numbers in their World Cup history. That is not just a statistic. That is a confession. Brazil did not lose control because Norway stole it from them. Brazil handed control away because they were terrified of what would happen if their backline stepped too high. That is the trap. It begins before Haaland touches the ball. It begins when the favorite stops playing its own game. And that is why England have to be careful. Because Norway do not need to dominate England. They do not need to look better for 90 minutes. They do not need 20 chances. They need one sequence, one long ball, one hesitation, one defender turning the wrong way, one goalkeeper realizing the shot is already coming. Brazil gave them that sequence. England cannot. But to understand why this is more than Haaland hype, you have to understand how Norway build the trap. It is not just give the ball to Haaland and hope. That is too simple. The real mechanism is more dangerous because it looks basic until it works. Norway can sit in their shape, let the favorite move forward, invite pressure into the middle, and then refuse to play the risky pass everyone expects. Instead, they go direct. The ball is launched toward Alexander Sørloth. That is the first trigger. Sørloth is not there just to win a header. He is there to turn a clearance into an attack. He pins defenders. He absorbs contact. He drags bodies toward him. And when England's centre-backs or midfielders step toward that duel, the second trigger appears. Martin Ødegaard. That is where the trap becomes a pattern. Sørloth gives Norway the wall. Ødegaard gives Norway the brain. And Haaland gives Norway the punishment. By the time the ball drops into Ødegaard's zone, the defense is already moving backward, sideways, and emotionally late. One player attacks the ball. One player covers the runner. One player hesitates between the two. That half second is the whole match, because Haaland does not need a perfect situation. He needs a lane. Brazil saw the lane too late. And the terrifying thing for England is that this mechanism does not require Norway to be beautiful. It only requires England to be stretched once. That is why the word trap matters. The trap is not Haaland standing alone at the top of the pitch. The trap is the favorite believing the attack is safe. The trap is the fullback stepping too high. The trap is the midfield line arriving half a second late. The trap is the center-back thinking, do I follow Sørloth, do I hold the line, or do I turn for Haaland? And by the time that question appears, Norway have already won the moment. This is where England's problem becomes complicated. Because England are not weak. That would be the lazy version of this story. England have already survived pressure in this tournament. They have played through chaos, suffered when they had to suffer, and still found a way forward. That matters. Jude Bellingham gives them violence between the lines. Harry Kane gives them control, finishing, and tournament coldness. England have match winners everywhere. So this is not a video saying Norway are simply better. They are not. This is a video saying Norway may be more dangerous than England want them to be. Because resilience is one thing. Geometry is another. You can survive pressure. You can survive a hostile stadium. You can survive uncomfortable moments. But can you survive a match where every attack opens a runway behind you? That is the question. If England push too high, Haaland gets space. If England drop too deep, Norway breathe, Sørloth becomes useful, Ødegaard starts seeing the pitch, and Nusa can isolate defenders. If England play too safe, they risk becoming Brazil, a favorite slowly pulled away from its own identity. And that is exactly what Norway want. They do not need England to panic immediately. They just need England to think twice. They want defenders checking their shoulders before they step. They want midfielders wondering if the press is too aggressive. They want the goalkeeper thinking about the space behind the line before the shot even exists. That is what Haaland does to a match. The most dangerous part is not just his finishing. It is the fear he creates before the ball arrives. Defenders stop playing the ball and start playing the possibility. They drop half a step deeper. They stop squeezing with confidence. And once that happens, England's pressure can break from the inside. That is why Brazil's exit matters so much. It was not just an upset. It was a demonstration. A giant changed its behavior because of Norway's threat. A giant protected space instead of imposing itself. A giant waited. And when the moment came, Norway punished the one mistake. Now England face the same test. And the test is not whether they can keep the ball. The test is whether they can keep their structure after they lose it. That is the real game. Not possession. Rest defense, not pressure. Protection, not stars. Spacing. Because knockout football does not remember the team that looked comfortable for 70 minutes. It remembers the moment the structure opened. Brazil learned that too late. England have to learn it before kickoff. And Miami could make this even more dangerous. A hot, humid, stop-start quarterfinal is not always kind to the team expected to press, chase, and control. If the rhythm slows, if the legs get heavier, if tactical fouls break the game into fragments, the favorite can become frustrated. And frustration is fuel for the underdog. Every minute Norway survive makes England feel the weight. Every long clearance becomes a warning. Every Haaland sprint makes the back line think twice. And thinking twice is the first step into the trap. That is why England cannot treat this like a normal quarterfinal. They cannot just say, we have better players. Brazil had better players. They cannot just say, we will control the game. Brazil abandoned control because the threat behind them became too frightening. They cannot just say, stop Haaland. Because stopping Haaland is not only about marking him. It is about stopping the chain before he appears. Stop the long ball into Sørloth. Stop Ødegaard from receiving the second ball facing forward. Stop Nusa from isolating the fullback. Stop the midfield from stretching after England attack. Stop the one moment from becoming the only moment anyone remembers. That is the job. England do not need to be scared of Norway. But they do need to respect the mechanism. Because if they ignore it, the story writes itself. Brazil were the warning. England were told exactly where the danger was. One fear, one long ball, one open lane, one Haaland run. And if England give Norway that same sequence, this will not feel like a shock after the final whistle. It will feel like a warning everyone saw coming. England next? And if this World Cup keeps breaking giants like this, the next warning might already be forming. Subscribe to World Cup Chaos Lab for the next breakdown before the next favorite falls.